And welcome to another Mark Bishop episode where we look at thought leaders, progressive business people, successful business people around the globe, and of course, entrepreneurs. And today's show is no exception, but very unusual. I'd like to welcome you to another show where my guest was raised on a ranch in the mountains of Utah, 2 miles outside of a town of 150. Now, that's what you call small, and that's if you counted a few of the cows. As he says, he went to a small high school that allowed him to play sports, being football, basketball, and tennis. And he enjoyed many extracurricular activities. David Brown, like to welcome you. That does sound like a nice place to grow up in.
Good morning, Mark. It was great. And it's great to be with you today, too.
You're most welcome. My guest, listeners, is David Brown, a very successful career businessman and entrepreneur and CEO of the new and exciting Activz, a company created to activate virtually every aspect of a person's life. Now, we're going to get right into Activz a little later and the extraordinary success over a short period of time. But I am interested, David, to hear about your journey into Japan for 2 years as a missionary and graduated from BYU with a degree in Japanese. Now, did you learn the language from scratch living there, or how?
Well, it was a period of preparation, about 2 months of intensive study where you learn the basics of grammar and a few phrases like where's the bathroom and how do I get something to eat, all those important things. But you pretty much learn it while you're there. And if you can immerse yourself in another country, another culture, that's the best way to learn another language, I think.
Well, you know, they say that travel is the best education that you can get, so I can see how that would work. Were you... You actually were working, weren't you, for a consulting company in Japan for a year before going to Cornell University Law School. That must have been interesting for you. I gather you would have been, specialized in corporate transactions, particularly with Japanese companies.
Absolutely. In fact, I was already starting to lose my hair by that age, and they said, listen, you look a lot older than you are, so don't tell anybody that we've sent a young guy like you to be a consultant for our company. But your Japanese is pretty good. You seem to be relatively smart, so we'll work with you. It was a great experience for me.
I think it's amazing the fact that you can be in business and hold your own in their lingo. You know, I mean, to gain respect like that. Were you living at the time, or where were you living at that time in Japan? And was it difficult or easy to assimilate?
Well, Japan's a wonderful country. The people are very friendly. However, if you don't speak the language and you're not Japanese, you're just kind of always an outsider. But they accept you in. I was living in Osaka, which is the second largest city in Japan, in southwestern Japan, and known for commerce. I'd served my mission in that general area as well, so I knew the dialect and as well as standard Japanese. And it was a wonderful, wonderful learning experience for my wife and me and our little girl, who was 1 year old at the time when we went over.
Right. And the food? How did you find that?
Well, you know, it's very different than the steak and potatoes I was raised on at a ranch. But I grew to love sushi and fish of all kind. Mm-hmm. I will say there's a few things that even to this day aren't my favorite, but overall, it's wonderful.
Do you think that your experience of living in Japan was the catalyst for you joining a nutritional supplement company called Natural Balance as its general counsel and later to become its president?
No, I don't think there was any connection. I think it was one of those things in life that sometimes just happens. I was working for a large national law firm in Los Angeles and then was recruited by a large Philadelphia firm to be in their Denver office and head up their Asian practice. And frankly, just through an interesting encounter through a member of my church, I was introduced to this company and I found myself with an experience that I'd never anticipated, had really no experience in, but just grew to love.
Well, not a bad start down this track, David. You grew revenues at LifeVantage, from $3 million to over $200 million a year by taking the company into direct marketing share. And how did you go about that? I mean, was that a big thing at the time, or?
Well, at the time, my previous experience had been in retail. The companies that I had headed up had great success in not only mom and pop health food stores, but stores like Costco and Walmart and Walgreens and things like that. Mm-hmm. But when I heard about and when I was recruited to become the CEO of LifeVantage, they had a wonderful product. It reduced something called oxidative stress, which is connected to a lot of diseases. But I said to them, you know, you're in the wrong channel. You can't expect a GNC clerk, let alone a Walmart employee, to tell every single employee what oxidative stress is and why it's important.
Yeah, right.
And so you need to go direct, and you need to go direct to consumers. And they had a couple of options. They had infomercials, but they didn't have enough money. There was e-commerce, but they didn't know how to do it, and neither did I. And then there was direct selling through network marketing. And the largest companies in the world selling supplements are network marketing companies. You know, some of the brands you see at GNC might seem pretty big to you and I, but compared to Amway, who does $1 billion a month, or Herbalife, which is a $5.5 billion company, they're very small potatoes. And so I convinced a very skeptical board to allow us to go down that route. Even that wouldn't have been successful if I hadn't taken a page out of my high school football experiences and surrounding myself with people who are bigger, stronger, faster, and in this case, smarter than I was. And I had a great opportunity to assemble a great team. And with that team's experience and hard work, we had a lot of success.
So there you go. You see, I mean, nothing's impossible, is it?
Nothing's impossible.
You must have learned something, David, as CEO. As your next challenge to you this time, I mean, you took revenues from 120 million to over 500 million, and you ventured into retail. Now, it's interesting because you started retail, you went to direct, now you've gone back to retail.
Well, it's actually kind of the opposite. I took a company, Metabolife, the one that you just mentioned. They were a big diet company, and they actually started out in direct sales, but they made a huge strategic mistake prior to me getting there, which had actually opened up the job for me. And so we took them out of direct and into retail. With LifeVantage, we did just the opposite, took them out of retail and into direct selling. And now with Activz, we are remaining in the direct selling, but actually kind of a hybrid. A
little mixture.
Omni-channel, so that we can meet people where we find them.
Well, we're going to get into that, and that's quite exciting. As president of Natural Balance, one of those past companies, another health-related company, your revenue increases this time was more than 50%. How did you go about that one?
Mostly by expanding our distribution. The company has started out selling into mom-and-pop health food stores, but a lot of contraction was occurring. Those companies were being bought out by companies like Whole Foods and Wild Oats and being replaced with these larger kind of big box stores and expanding into what's referred to as the food, drug, and mass market. So we went from selling to Sally's herb shop in Omaha, Nebraska, to selling to Walmart. And that makes a big difference in revenue.
Wouldn't it ever? So what was next?
Well, the next thing after that was then I was recruited to become the CEO of this company, Metabolife. And
I remember Metabolife, yes.
And it was a great experience. And unfortunately, it caused me to have to move to San Diego with my family. Of course, nobody ever says unfortunately with the words in a sentence, including San Diego. Is wonderful.
Right.
And we raised our family there, had a wonderful experience, and that led to a lot of other opportunities as well.
Well, you had your own consulting company and CEO of successful companies like Symbiotics, LifeVantage. You've been able to attract an extraordinary group of people to create Activz, Activz. All right. Now, let's talk about Activz, David. What type of company is it?
Well, it's a company that truly is an epigenetic product company. And people say, that sounds pretty scientific. What in the world are you talking about? Well, we've all heard about genes, and for years we thought that, and scientists agreed, that we really couldn't do much about our genes. They are what they are, and they're going to do what they do. Well, now we know that through a study called Epigenetics, which means outside influences on the gene, that really we can control whether genes turn on or turn off. And in fact, we do every day without thinking about it. The things that we eat, the things that we drink, our lifestyle, they're showing that even our thoughts can affect how our genes respond. And so we are taking the affirmative action and saying, we are going to help you turn on those genes that will strengthen your immune system and turn off those genes that are causing some real harmful inflammation in your body.
Epigenetics, okay. I'll remember that one. Now, that's what this is all about. And the products are scientifically proven to act upon the genes in such a way as to dramatically improve health. And we're going to talk about that too with some proof, because I always like proof.
Sure.
Let's talk about omni-channel in the true sense of the word. Explain to me how Activz is an omni-channel.
Well, we know that some people, when they hear about network marketing, they have a stereotype in their mind, and that stereotype is not always positive, with good reason. There have been some abuses. There have been claims that are made that, in regards to products, in regards to financial opportunity, that frankly have turned a lot of people off. And so no matter how much science there is, no matter how many studies, no matter the stature of our scientific advisory board, some people are just going to fold their arms and close their eyes and their ears and not take advantage of these great products. So we want to meet those people, like I said earlier, where we find them. If they see the same product on Amazon, or if they see it in a practitioner's office, for example, then they're much more open to accepting it and receiving the benefits in their life. And that's what we're going to do. Now, we'll never go into full-blown retail, Walgreens, and that type of thing.
No.
So I don't mean that, because that would be too much of a conflict. But in terms of other places that people are increasingly turning to as options to acquire and obtain products, we'll be there.
So does that mean you'd be in like an Amazon type thing? Or?
Yes, we will, and we are.
Cool. Okay. Well, how does that mix in the minds of distributors in the old traditional networking style? Because retail is traditionally done between distributors and their customers.
Right, and that's a great question, because most people would think, well, isn't that a conflict? And my answer to them is twofold. Number one, if people are going to go to Amazon and spend more money, because we charge more money for the product if they don't buy it through a distributor, if they're going to do that, then they were probably never really a potential customer for you anyway, number one. Number two, don't worry, because we're going to take that revenue and we're going to put it in pools that you can participate in as a distributor. So just as a distributor, when they attain certain ranks, are able to participate in pools that has revenue from Japan and from Mexico and the U.S., in other words, trying to benefit from things that they're not directly doing, they'll also be able to benefit from these other activities of the company as well.
Wow. Now, what about the products themselves, supported by research in a big way, I believe?
Well, a lot of companies say that. Nobody really says, well, our products really aren't that good and there's no research to back up the claims.
Right. But it is in research that I've done, Activz have gone all out from what I can ascertain.
Well, absolutely. So, for example, I mentioned Oxidative Stress, and that was the flagship product of a previous company.
Right.
That product was developed by a world-renowned scientist named Dr. Joe McCord. And back then, that product was developed in 2006. And think back, Mark, to the phone that you were using in 2006. I had this really cool Razor phone. It was a flip phone. It had a cool ringtone. It could take a picture, not a very good picture, but it could take a picture. And it could text. Do you remember those days when you had to go A, B, 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 C, C, C?
That seems so long ago, doesn't it?
But at the time, it represented the cutting edge of technology,
sure,
right? And so it was like, wow, this is awesome. Well, just like phone technology has changed, and now we would never turn in our smartphones and the capabilities that it gives us for mobility and being able to have that be our office on the go for an old flip phone. Similarly, the technology regarding NRF2 activation, which is really how this previous product worked, also didn't stand still. And this scientist continued to research and created a product that was 10 times more powerful than the previous product that we had successfully introduced into the marketplace. We call that product genomics, for genome expression or gene expression. Okay. And what it does is it upregulates several thousand survival genes, has a key component into anti-aging, and it reduces this cumulative damage of free radicals called oxidative stress that is best illustrated by what happens when you peel a banana and it turns brown in the air. That's oxidation. And that same type of oxidation and damage is occurring in our cells. And so if you can reduce that and turn it down, you're going to age more slowly, and you're going to be able to fare better in regards to over 200 diseases that are directly linked to oxidative stress.
The products sound absolutely amazing, and I go back many years when I was a Herbalife distributor. Products were amazing, and I was very fortunate to enjoy that company with Mark Hughes, the founder of it, and they were one of the legits, and still are.
Sure,
out there,
absolutely.
One of the big ones. But the problems and the effort he had to go through with the FDA, pioneering, I guess, back in those days. What about Activz now, as far as the FDA is concerned?
Well, the good news and bad news is that I'm a lawyer by training.
That's right.
And I have a lot of experience in the FDA. It's interesting. When I told the LifeVantage board that we should go into network marketing, my board was filled with finance guys and scientists, all of whom said, oh, no, we're not doing to do that. Those are pyramid schemes. You're going to go to jail.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All pyramid schemes.
Yeah. And I said, here's the way you avoid that. You tell the truth. And you tell the truth about your products, and you tell the truth about your opportunity. Now, the interesting thing about supplements is that, and this seems kind of crazy, but people think when they think about the government, they'll think, well, that makes sense. As a dietary supplement, there are certain claims in regards to disease. We can't claim to cure or treat or mitigate a disease. That's a good lawyer word for you, right? Mitigate. Right. And that doesn't, and it doesn't matter if the science shows that you can. So, for example, if I knew that a plant on your desk, the leaf of that plant could cure cancer, and everybody around the world agreed, yeah, it'll cure cancer, still can't say it because it hasn't gone through the drug process. And so what we do make is we make what are called structure function claims. And so, for example, our product called Link, we call it Link because of the well-known connection, well, maybe not so well known, is becoming increasingly well known, between our gut and our brain. And there's a tremendous connection between our gut health and our brain. And we can talk a little bit more about that if you'd like. But the butyric acid, which our body produces naturally, but as we get older, we don't produce as much as we really could use. So Link's primary ingredient is butyric acid. We can talk about how that will help. That's the fuel of choice for endothelial cells, those cells that line your stomach. That they will help increase the number of brain cells that you have, that it will increase the number of good bacteria in your microbiome. We can make claims like that and then allow people to do the research and go to Google, for example, and say benefits of butyric acid and be blown away.
Right, that way.
Type of stuff. So,
yeah, I know some companies have ruined it for others, haven't they, with overindulging and
unfortunately,
and doing it too much. So your scientific advisory board must be amazing. I mean, let me understand. You founded this company with others, correct?
Yes.
So you weren't just brought in as the CEO.
No.
So your objective from the beginning was being right in there with skin in the game and with, coming from the heart. You wanted this particular and these products to be super good and to work.
Absolutely.
So how did you and who did you get around you as the scientific board?
Well, it's interesting. I've now been in the industry for about almost 30 years, meaning the supplement industry generally. And so during that process, I've become acquainted with a number of top researchers, great scientists. And it's interesting, Mark, going back to my LifeVantage days, this product that was only selling $3 million 1 year and then was selling over $250 million 5 years later. Nothing changed in the nature of the product. It was still the same product. It didn't become suddenly a better product. It was just kind of an orphan product. Great science, but the scientists didn't know anything, didn't know what to do with it. And I was convinced then, and more convinced now, that there's a ton of great research out there, great products in the hands of scientists who are great at research and bad at marketing. And so if you can find those great orphan products out there and distribute them to the world, you can make a big difference. And so we've been able to do that. And we do really have an embarrassment of riches of members of our scientific advisory board. It's not because we're paying them a lot of money.
No.
It's because they look at the products, they look at the science and say, we need to share these products. And so we have Dr. Joe Maroon, a world-renowned neurosurgeon. We have Dr. Rish Patel, a very well-known pain management specialist. We actually have Admiral Matt Winter. He's just retired recently, about a year ago, from the Navy. And he's a former head of the Office of Naval Research, okay? So he's a scientist and a researcher in his own right. And, before the Navy allowed him, because at the time he was still a sitting admiral, before they allowed him to join our advisory board, we had to be fully vetted by the Navy. They had to look us up and down
as
and
well
as.
Else.
I'm telling you.
As if the FDA is not enough.
But you know what? You know how it is. If you can stand scrutiny, bring it on.
By all means, got nothing to hide.
We didn't have anything to. In fact, we knew they'd be impressed and probably like, whoa, who are these guys?
Unbelievable. Well, your slogan is, we'll make you better. and no doubt you mean it. I mean, can you share what kind of experiences some people have had? Honest experiences, because I know that they're honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll go back to our advisory board. In fact, they use our products and they talk about the products.
Well, they sound like they're very keen on them. And they're sorts of people and guys, you know, David, that aren't going to put their brand on, their name on it. They're not going to endorse it unless the darn things are good.
Absolutely. You know? So I'll go to Dr. Rish Patel. Here's a pain management specialist who people go to who are dealing with really horrific issues of inflammation and pain.
Right.
He's also an avid golfer, okay? A really good golfer, basically a scratch golfer.
Oh, I'd love to give him a game one day. I get a lot of pain, so he can fix me up.
Well, there you go. But he says, you know, here I am, a pain management specialist. I'm also of Indian extraction, and I like to golf. And now that he's in his late 50s, his back bothers him, his hips bother him, you know, the things that come along with playing a lot of golf.
Yep.
He said, and I used to I'd pound down the Advil and the ibuprofen and things like that. And he said, even though as a doctor, I knew how harmful those were for my liver and my kidneys and my stomach.
Yes.
He said, now I take Optimend, which is our product that it really is unbelievable in terms of a type of curcumin that by our specialized delivery system gets into the body much more fully and absorbable than any other form of curcumin or turmeric out there. And he said, David, I saw the research and I thought it sounded great, but when I took the product, I just got to tell you, I felt so much better. And he said it didn't really surprise me because as people of Indian extraction, we know the power of turmeric, we know the power of curcumin. But he said I have my own personal testimonial about that.
Right.
Richard Jones, who's another member of our board and is a top media specialist and media executive and is actually a top executive of one of the top media companies in the United States. He suffers from diverticulitis, which is an extremely painful condition.
My word, yes.
And you know, he calls Link. He calls it his magic pills. He says, it's unbelievable. He said, I talked to my doctors. They were ready to do surgery and take out a portion of my colon and my large intestine. And
that's pretty serious.
And just avoided the whole thing. And so I could go on, whether it be people who have noticed that blood pressure has gone down, whether it's people who notice that skin conditions have cleared up, whether their digestive system is operating better. Admiral Matt Winter, before he left, he was the head of the F-35 Joint Strike Force, which has been that huge albatross in the military as they tried to introduce a brand new $1 billion per plane fighter project. I mean, it's a big deal. And he said, David, you know, the thing I notice most about Link is I notice a reduction of brain fog. And when I have to go to the White House and brief the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff on what's going on, he said, I need to be at the top of my game. He said, and Link increases my cognition. He says, I have greater clarity. I have greater, you know, much less brain fog. And we all kind of know as we get older what that means. The brain fog, you know, it's kind of like fog in San Francisco in the morning. It's like it takes a while to go away.
Well, I mean, the reality is, and the older we get, we lose, you know, bits of talent and bits of brain and bits of this and bits of that. So we need help.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about.
Unbelievable. Well, you're with Mark Bishop, and my very special guest is David Brown, the CEO of a brand new company. You're going to hear a lot about them, Activz, Activz. Now, one of the things that when I was researching that I really liked is that you haven't bombarded with a million products. Right, people get confused.
Sure.
And you can get lost. You must have talked about this in the boardroom when you launched, when you started. You must have thought, look, what are we really trying to do? What do we need to attack to improve? But how many products do we need to do that? Why did you go to beauty, what I call beauty as well, right? Why did you go to skincare versus these other wonderful products that you're using to heal serious illnesses? What brought in the beauty?
Well, you know, they say that beauty is only skin deep, right? Well, that skin we're talking about is the largest organ on our body. You know, it's also a very important part of our immune system. And so yes, everybody wants to look good, but there's a real practical and health-related reason to keep your skin in good shape. And so that is a combination of inside, outside. Now, none of all of us, we can actually slow down the aging clock by reducing oxidative stress. But at the end of the day, the years are still going to pass by, and if we're out in the sun a lot and doing things, we're causing damage, and that can lead to skin cancer. It can lead to all types of problems. And so, yeah, we might call it beauty, but I can tell you that the technology and the science behind the ingredients and the combination of ingredients in our skincare products are not one whit behind the epigenetic technology in any of our other products.
Wow. So really, they complement each other.
Absolutely.
So all up, I think there's only 6 or something, isn't there?
Yeah, we do.
About 6 or 7.
Including our new weight loss product. You might ask the same question. Why weight loss? Aren't there thousands of weight loss products out there? Well, we're all aware of the pandemic, and we know the damage and loss that's been caused by that. And there's a vaccine for that now that will go a long way, and as people also take control of their health and do other things. But what about the obesity epidemic that's been around for years and shows no signs of slowing down? And frankly, the cost to society are much greater than even that of COVID-19. Fully 60% of American adults, 62%, I think, are overweight or obese. And the tremendous rise in diseases that used to be considered adult diseases that are now like type 2 diabetes. They're now being seen in children. Do you know that 1 in 4 children in the United States is considered obese? And there are so many attendant health problems associated with that.
It's been a problem for a long, long time, and yet it just doesn't seem to get home, right? Like a pandemic where, because the news is telling you every night another 1,000 have dropped today, another 2,000 have died today, whereas obesity is doing bigger numbers, but it's just something that's there. You know.
Absolutely. And, but it's not really everybody's fault. We kind of want to associate that with just a lack of discipline, a lack of willpower. There's a lot more to that. Food
is so easy here. I mean, takeaway food, very cheap too in America. It's easy just to eat rubbish if you like.
Well, not only that, but those things have been engineered, and scientists have known since the 40s that certain combinations of sugar, salt, and fat are highly addictive. Did you know that they've done studies on rats, and they get them hooked on sugar, and that rats will work 8 times. They'll get them hooked on both cocaine and sugar. Right. You know what they do? They will work 8 times harder to get the sugar than they will the cocaine. That's how addictive it is.
Wow.
And so, companies realize that. When Lay's potato chips says, bet you can't eat just one, they mean it because they engineered it that way.
You're right.
And so if they're going to use technology to addict us to fast food, addict us to highly processed, very unhealthy food, guess what you need? You need some highly technical tools in your war chest to go to battle with that. And that's what we've done with our weight loss product as well. We have ingredients in there that have been shown to help turn bad fat cells, white fat cells, into good fat cells. Brown. I'm glad they're called brown fat cells because my last name's Brown, and so I'm glad that's a good fat cell.
Right. Yes. Good
but
name.
Also to decrease appetite, decrease your appetite, to control blood sugar levels, so there's not so many cravings. So we really want to arm people, give them the things to take control of their own health.
Well, they sound marvelous, and I'm going to be a market for those. I'll tell you that, because at my age, it's very difficult to keep weight off.
Absolutely.
We did a keto, my wife and I. Yes, we lost a lot of weight. Yes, it was great, but look, trying to stay on it is very difficult. So you need something to help you along the lines. Now, from what I can ascertain, you've got something like 7,000 distributors since inception and launch of Activz. Would that be right?
Well, that
in America,
that's a moving target. Yeah, it's in the United States, in Mexico, which is actually our largest market and where we initially started. Over 30,000 distributors.
Really?
And so it's growing fast.
Out of Mexico itself?
In Mexico,
right.
And another few thousand in Peru, and now Colombia, in Japan. So it is growing, and it's growing fast.
Well, I was going to ask, what's the goal? What's Activ's goal? What's your goal, David Brown?
Well, as a business person, you often phrase goals in terms of revenue targets and things like that. And yes, we want to be a large, powerful company because with more resources, we can do more. But at the end of the day, the reason that I like this channel better than retail. It was fine going to Bentonville, Arkansas and meeting the president of Walmart, or going to Costco in Seattle and meeting the president of Costco. They're good people, but it's not the same. It's not the same as helping a single mom, a Colombian immigrant in Sacramento, California, change her life around, not only from a health standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint, seeing them change their lives. You know, when you introduce these products to someone who really has a need, and basically, if you walk down the street and ask who needs these products, who needs this opportunity, guess what?
Just about everybody.
It's everybody.
Yep.
And when you do that and reach out, and they thank you years later for doing that, you've now become part of that family's lore. They remember the day you did it, and you know what the changes it made in their lives and their families' lives, and it's a big, big deal. And that's what our goal is. We want to affect positively as many lives as we can wherever they are.
Not just financially, but healthily as well.
Absolutely.
Which is really doing a good thing for the planet. So is the goal to be as many countries as possible?
Well, yes. Now we know that there are some countries where it's very, very difficult. They don't like the type of products or the type of channel that we do. They won't allow network marketing and things. So we'll go in there, and it will take a long time. You know, you mentioned Herbalife and some of these other companies that are in literally probably hundreds of countries, but they're also 30 or 40 years old. So
that's correct.
It took them a while to do that, but we will expand just like our product line. We'll expand into other markets judiciously. Wisely, in a way that makes sense for everyone.
Right, that's what counts, yeah. Interactions with the company, positive one, health benefits, it's all of that. They say that there is a good woman behind every successful businessman or entrepreneur. What about David Brown?
Absolutely. And you know, the rest of the part of that saying is that behind every successful man is a wonderful woman and a surprised mother-in-law. And I qualify on both those accounts. I have a wonderful wife. We have 4 children, 4 grandchildren. We've been married almost 37 years, and she really is. In fact, she's smarter. She could probably do a lot better in business if that was the task that she had decided to take. But I'm very grateful for her in my life.
You like doing things together, though, like hiking and surfing and you know, playing a bit of basketball?
Well, yes, she loves to hike with me. She's not much of a surfer and not much of a basketball player either. That's where my
Did you surf yourself?
Well, you know, growing up in Utah, there wasn't really an opportunity.
No, I was going to say, where on earth would you surf?
But when we moved to San Diego and my boys got into surfing, particularly my oldest son, who's a big surfer. And, you know, when you don't grow up surfing, I wouldn't say that I'm good. I'm okay. I'm okay for an old guy.
That's all right,
man. To get up on a board.
You don't look that old. These products are working for you, I'll tell you that. Will Activz be an international company? Well, we've touched on that, but I like your answer being judiciously. I mean, it's all very well saying, oh, we're going to be all over the world and we're going to be this, we're going to be that. And you go too thin, it's not right, the products aren't wide. What about delivery and what about supply? How have you engineered? So this is, I guess, part of the reason how you're careful to go into different countries too.
Absolutely.
It's all very well going in, but it's the work behind the scenes, isn't it? The logistics, as they say.
You know it. Well, it's just like this radio show. You know, people listening to us say, "Oh, this must be really easy." He makes it seem really easy, but there's a lot of hard work that goes behind it, and technology and preparation. And it's the same thing for us. You know, you have to get products registered. You have to arrange for the logistics. For example, we have manufacturers in Guadalajara, Mexico, which is the Latin America pharmaceutical capital in that area. So we actually joint venture with a very large pharmaceutical company that makes our products according to very stringent standards. We use manufacturers in the United States to manufacture products for the U.S., but also for the Peruvian and Colombian markets and Japan. And then, you know, we have to expand our logistics people and third-party suppliers. And so there is a lot of work that goes into that. And you're absolutely right. I am beset every day with people who say, when are you going to come to Ireland? When are you going to come to Canada? When are you going to go to Taiwan? And, you know, it's hard to turn those people down because they really want the benefits. But you don't want to disappoint them either. You don't want to be out of stock. You don't want to be put them in a position, even in the sense of commissions, because we commission our distributors. You know, that takes a lot of effort to entertain and engage in banking relationships and currency transfers and all that type of stuff. So it takes a lot of work. The good news is I have such a great, tremendous team of people with me. You know, Mark, when we talk about who do we allow to join the corporate team, I said, well, we've only got one qualification, but it's got 2 components, and they have to be good. And what I mean by that is they have to be good people that you would trust your wife, your children, your wallet with, but they also have to be really good at what they do. And if they're only good in one of those, we're not going to hire them. If they're really good people, we'll be friends, but we won't hire them. If they're not good people, but they're good at what they do, we won't hire them, and we probably won't be friends. But so we're going to get good people, and we've been very lucky that way.
We haven't just gone through very quickly the products. You've touched on a couple and what they do. If you'd like to go from left to right, give us an idea of the name of it and what it does, or what is the idea behind it.
Great. Well, we talked about genome expression, the one that by activating what's called a transcription factor, a protein that we all make in our body called NRF2. And NRF2 is a signaling molecule that signals to antioxidant enzymes and other molecules in the body to do certain things. It's kind of like a coach for a team saying, I'm telling you to do this and I'm telling you to do that. And so what it's telling these genes to do is you immune system genes, you need to upregulate. We want to make this body as strong as possible. You inflammatory genes, until further notice, you're out of work. We don't want you firing anymore.
Right, okay.
And so we reduce the oxidative stress levels and slow down that aging clock and make the body much more powerful in its ability to ward off and deal with disease and health insults.
And that helps. And that's genomics.
Genomics.
Okay. Next one.
Then you go to Link. And I mentioned...
What, L-I-N-K, just Link?
L-I-N-Q.
L-I-N-Q, okay.
We don't know how to spell it, Active. So we do things a little bit differently.
And by the way, folks, there is a website, so don't panic if you haven't remembered all this. Just go to the site. It all explains everything. But I just wanted David to go through so I would get a better idea again as well, because I'm going to start taking these things, I can tell you. Link, L-I-N-Q. What's it do?
L-I-N-Q. And the reason that we called it Link, because there really is a well-known link between our gut. Now, it's interesting. When I was a kid, Mark, and maybe you're the same, if you use the word gut, it was slang for stomach. If I got punched in the gut, I got punched in the stomach.
Yep.
So I asked scientists, because they use the word gut, and doctors use the word gut. I said, when you use the word gut, what are you talking about? They said, we're talking about the entire gastrointestinal system. Basically, everything from the neck down, not including your heart and your lungs. Everything else is the gastrointestinal system.
Which is critical in a human body.
Absolutely. And
they're finding out more and more and more now that deaths are being caused through the gut.
Totally. And in fact, Hippocrates, we hear about the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. But Hippocrates said some other things, like, for example, that all disease begins in the gut. Now, that may seem like an overstatement, but increasingly they're finding out that that's really true. As one of our doctors talked about recently on a medical forum call that we host for our distributors, he said, we've all heard the phrase, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. He said, well, think about that. If the gut ain't happy, nothing in your body's happy. And in fact, they increasingly call the gut the second brain. We know that our brain cells are called neurons. Did you know that our gut has as many neurons in it as a dog does?
Wow.
So it operates things sometimes independently. Now, more importantly, there's a constant interchange between our gut and our brain through friendly bacteria. And because of that, they now know that things that we used to think of being primarily neurological or brain-related, things like depression, autism, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, they have a derivation in the gut. And if things aren't healthy there, it's going to affect your brain at some point. Now, the reverse is also true. I remember being just flabbergasted when a doctor said, we've known for years that irritable bowel syndrome is a neurological disorder. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not sure. How does that work? The bowel and the brain.
Yeah, right.
He says, no, there's a strong connection. So you need to strengthen that connection. And what Link does with its superstar ingredient, this short chain fatty acid called butyric acid, it not only strengthens the gut by healing those cells. You hear of leaky gut syndrome?
Yes.
Well, that happens when the endothelial cells stretch or actually have holes in them because of our diet and our lifestyle. So you need to put those conjunctions tightly together. And butyric acid allows the body to naturally do that. And by so doing, then it's able to safely protect what's called the microbiome, our gastrointestinal system of friendly bacteria that are so important for the proper functioning of our body. And then it creates neurogenesis, or the creation of new brain cells. It upregulates immune system genes and downregulates inflammatory genes, kind of like genomics does, but through different pathways. So you get a double effect in very important areas. And some people have heard about butyric acid and they say, well, yeah, but isn't that the stuff that really stinks and has a bad taste? And they're right. In naturally in our bodies, it not only has all of these tremendous benefits, but it smells really bad. It's also responsible for the smell and taste of stomach bile and feces.
Right.
And I'll take a lot of things, Mark, but I would probably draw the line at actually swallowing something that tastes or smell like that.
Yeah.
And so what we've been able to do is we licensed a technology that puts by molecule, a molecule of butyric acid into a molecule of something called cyclodextrin, which is basically a starch. And what that does is it covers up the smell, it covers up the taste, but more importantly, it safely delivers a molecule into the small intestine where it's released and can be dispersed throughout the body. Dr. Joe Maroon, as not only a world-renowned neurosurgeon, is the head team doctor for the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. And when I first met him, he said, we've known all about the benefits of butyric acid for a long time. In fact, I've even experimented with working with protein bar manufacturers to see if we could cover up that taste, cover up that smell, because it's so important for brain health and gut health. He said, I always felt that if somebody could deal with the taste and smell issues, they would have what I call the holy grail of supplements. And then he said, how did you do it? I said, well, I didn't do it, but I knew a really smart guy who did, and we licensed it from his technology company. And so that's incredibly
fantastic.
Powerful product.
Yeah.
Then we use the same technology on Optimend. That's our pain relief anti-inflammatory product. Optimend. And we take everyone's heard of turmeric. It's used in Indian cooking and spicy.
Yes, I love Indian food, and there's always turmeric around that.
Yep, and curcumin is a component of turmeric.
Right.
And another component that's a component of curcumin is called tetrahydrocurcumin. It's actually what the body turns turmeric and curcumin into as it uses it in the body. Okay. And Ayurvedic or Indian medicine has known about the benefits of turmeric for thousands of years as not only anti-inflammatory and pain relief, but as an anti-cancer agent, anti-diabetes, all these type of things that in traditional Indian medicine has been used. But if you go on to Google or to PubMed.gov and look and Google benefits of turmeric or curcumin, you'll literally find hundreds of thousands of studies where they've shown, oh yeah, this is really good stuff. But almost every one of them, Mark, will say at the end, unfortunately, it's such a large molecule that it's hard for the body to absorb. It's really hard to get enough into your system to really make it to make it work.
To do any good, yeah.
So what did we do? We use that same technology I just explained a minute ago. This time, we're not forcing butyric acid into another molecule. We're forcing tetrahydrocurcumin into another molecule. And that acts as kind of like a shrink wrap and allows it to get into the system and then be released. And so people who have taken turmeric supplements, of which there are probably hundreds or thousands maybe out there, with very, very little relief, are saying, whoa, what did you do? This is like supercharged products that we notice the pain relief within 30 minutes. It's unbelievable. And so that's another great product we have. You mentioned the Amora skincare products that we have.
What are they called?
Amora is the line. Amora. And that's really, the technology is really terrific. We have an exfoliating, we call it a mud. You might think, well, you're selling mud, huh?
Well, no, people want masks. I guess it's like a mask type.
Kind of like a mask, except that you don't really leave it on, but it exfoliates skin cells so that new healthy skin cells.
All the dead skin cells, right.
Right.
Okay. So what, you put this on and you don't have to sit there for an hour with it on your face?
No, in fact, I'll tell you what I do. Of course, I shave my head, and so I have a lot more real estate to cover than most people do.
You've got a landing strip for mosquitoes out there.
And so I just put it in the shower and you use it and scrub off, like every other day.
That's different.
And then you rinse it off.
Okay.
Then you follow that up with a toner. And our toner is not just any toner. It contains ceramides, which are specialized proteins to help rebuild collagen levels in your skin. But the superstar ingredient, Mark, is an ingredient that you can find in other products at high-end spas and skincare specialists for literally hundreds of dollars an ounce. And this is called, you've heard of, going back to my Japanese roots, sake, which is fermented rice water. And what fermented rice water has been shown to do is tremendously hydrogenate or add moisture back into the skin. You know how they found out about it originally? It's really interesting. Traditionally, sake was made in wooden casks where they'd put rice and water and then some yeast to cause fermentation. And they would hire old men to sit there and stir the water with their hands. And they realized after a period of time that while the old man's face and the rest of their body were wrinkled, their hands now looked like the hands of a newborn. And they even have a phrase for it in Japanese, basically newborn hands.
How about that? I always thought sake was a wine, though.
It is, but this is a different form of it.
It is a different form.
It's a but it is a fermented rice water, and that is the superstar ingredient. Then you go to the serum. The serum has specialized ingredients like hyaluronic acid, more ceramides that I mentioned earlier, and a specialized patented form of vitamin C that's been shown to have tremendous anti-aging benefits to it. And so, while many other skincare products might have one, maybe two if you're lucky and want to spend $200, $300, $400 for a bottle of active ingredients, we have 4 and 5 in each of our products that have been clinically proven to have these tremendous benefits. And so when you really think about it, it's an inside-outside approach to beauty and health.
Yeah, very much so.
And it really works well. And then I mentioned Arrow, which is our weight loss product. It has these specialized ingredients to basically do 3 things. Increase your energy levels by causing the mitochondria of your cells, the energy power plants in your cells to burn faster, burn harder, give you more energy and burn more calories. Number 2, control your appetite. And then number 3, control cravings through regulating your blood sugar and glucose levels. So that's our product lineup. And as you mentioned, we'll never have hundreds or thousands. We'll never have any Me Too products. Everything has to meet a very high exacting standard of great science, uniqueness, and real demonstrable benefits.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I think you're going to be so successful and expand is it's just a simple old thing called they work.
Right.
And people are going to say, God, you look good, or you're feeling better. I mean, what on earth? How did you do that here? Try this. And next one, and it goes on, but there's the opportunity. Everything's on the site. Activz.com, right? Activz.
That's right.
That's the URL, folks. Activz.com. And there's LinkedIn with David Brown. Of course, you can check him out and have a bit of a look. And the organization and Facebook page, the URL there is Activz USA. And now, let me understand, Utah-based, and then there's Colombia, and then there's Mexico. Where's the plant? Where's everything made in different places?
Different places. So for the U.S. and other countries, we manufacture in the U.S. at plants in Utah. And for Mexico, we manufacture with a plant in Guadalajara.
Now, anybody hears this and they say, listen, I need to make some money, but I'm interested in health. Okay, and I am interested in me getting well, but I'm also interested in helping other people. And, if it's the right thing, is there good money to be made? I mean, what sort of your early distributors, can you share anything at all about the sort of money? Because I don't want people to think, oh, here we go, because of this direct marketing jazz, they cost so much because everybody's making these high commissions. This isn't true. That's because the cost of developing, the cost of everything else, all you're doing really is saving a lot of money going direct. And that is dispersed amongst the people that get it out in the marketplace. Right?
That's absolutely right.
That's really the bottom line of it.
Well, at Metabolite, for example, we had a weight loss product that worked very well, and we would spend over $100 million a year in television and radio advertising for a very simple message. Take this, lose weight. Our products are a little more complicated than that. And so rather than spend tens of millions of dollars in advertising, we pass those monies that we would otherwise spend on advertising onto distributors in the form of commissions. Fully 55 cents of every dollar that we make, we commission out to people. And so you say, well, what's the end result of that? Well, first of all, our compensation plan, our compensation plan, revenue sharing, whatever you want to call it, is very different than some of the traditional network marketing companies where you really were required to buy sometimes thousands of dollars of product.
Well, this was the other point that I was going to bring up that has been negative in the world.
Absolutely.
That I want people to understand may not be the case with Activz.
Not only may not be, absolutely is not, will not, never will be the case with Activz. As well as, number one, one of the other criticisms that I think is true of network marketing products is sometimes is that they might be good products, but they're simply high-priced versions of things you could buy in a health food store. Well, number one, that's not true of us because we are unique, we're patented. You won't find this stuff anywhere else. Number two, our products are very moderately priced. People can afford them and put them into, I mean, obviously, if we start in Mexico, we need to make sure that we're sensitive to the culture and the economies of the
Well, I was going to say,
markets.
that amazes me. You know, I mean, it's known as a poor country.
Yeah.
And people don't earn a lot of money. Can they afford this? I mean,
Absolutely. Particularly, they can afford it when they combine it with the business opportunity and share it with other people. Now, there are people who already within, 3 years, 3.5 years, I can talk about a man named Martin Lira, who was a blue-collar worker, had not been successful in previous attempts in network marketing in Chihuahua, Mexico. And I don't know if you've been to Chihuahua. It's not exactly the garden spot of Mexico, but it's a nice place. They have lots of, vaqueros, and cowboys. And Martin, he talks about having this broken down green car. I've seen a picture of it that he was really worried about taking his family out on, and it's because it was constantly breaking down. Well, now 3 years later, Martin is making between he and his wife, about between $25,000 and $30,000 a month, which in Chihuahua, Mexico, is probably about like making $100,000 a month or more.
That's unbelievable.
And then we have other people who are making even more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, our sweet spot is we know that people can make tens and even hundreds of thousands of dollars a month by virtue of working and building an organization. I would never say that everybody's going to do that because, of course, that's not the case.
No, that's very much the case. That's very much the case. I met my wife through the Herbalife organization on a cruise. We were fortunate enough to be winners where Mark Hughes, he was alive then, but he brought in 2,000 of the top distributors from around the world. And he hired out a boat from out of Florida. I forget the name of the Carnival. But he hired the whole boat.
Wow.
Right, or ship, whatever you call the thing. And he put Herbalife all along the bow. And for 2,000 of us doing the Mexican Riviera and then the Caribbean, all paid for and brought to from your home base like Melbourne, Australia for me, return airfare to Miami. So I've never had that with any other corporation that I'd been involved with. I was very grateful, and I met my wife through that. But the reality was, she worked very hard at the business. I did too, but she was very much a train-the-trainer. She'd be at 2 a.m. on phone calls to Russia, and that's, you've got to put work in if you want to go that level. But then again, there's others that, look, I just want to enjoy it. I don't have to hammer my mom and dad and folks or family or relatives or anybody else. I can talk to the products for them if they want it because it'll help them. But you can just do some nice part-time and still earn a nice little bit of money. Not everybody has to earn $30,000 a month.
Well, in fact, in 2009 and 2008, when we had the crash in real estate and so many people lost their homes, it was proven that the average person who lost their house, if they'd had an extra $300 or $400 a month, they would have kept their house.
They would have kept it, yeah. It just made all the difference.
Absolutely. And so we are actually focused on making as many people who we can help them make $500 to $1,000 a month. And we already have hundreds and thousands of people doing that. They're not all making $10,000, nor will they. But their lives are already better and changed by virtue of making that kind of money. You mentioned the cruise. We just got back last week from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, on an incentive trip. Now, we haven't been around as long as Herbalife, so we didn't have 2,000. We had about 120.
Oh, lovely.
And we enjoyed it, and they were from all over. And it was really just so gratifying to see these people from all walks of life, with all types of educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, you name it.
Well, you know what's interesting? You were saying very earlier in the interview, it's a fold the arms, and from boardrooms to mums and dads to God knows who. Oh, this networking business, bloody pyramid stuff. No thanks. Blah blah blah. The reality is, when they meet a doctor, or they meet a gynecologist, or they meet a brain guy, a psychiatrist. Well, he just happens to be a distributor as well. Oh.
There really can be a very negative stereotype. When people join a company like ours, and I tell people this all the time, I said, you're going to be faced with people who are going to say, Mark, really, you joined a network marketing company? Are things so bad that you did that? Don't you know nobody makes any money? The products are all terrible. And that's just your wife or your mother-in-law telling you that, let alone somebody else.
Yes.
So when you can I really feel that one of our duties as a company is to provide people what I call cover. okay? And you provide them cover with real products, with real science, with real scientists, with real testimonials of people making money and having their health changed. And when you do that, I tell people, listen, don't tell them to believe me. I'm the CEO. They're going to expect me to say certain things. They don't even have to believe our scientists, but look at the lives of the people who have been involved. Look at the real benefits, the real financial improvement that they've made, and then make up your mind and decide whether this is real.
Now, one thing does interest me, because as you do go into, judiciously, you go into other countries, then there's different currencies, right? This type of thing. Products must be difficult to price them when you're talking other countries, compared to. Now, I guess you've also got to consider at board level, what's going to happen when everything goes digital? Have you worked on all that too? You ahead of the game?
Well, I would say we're ahead of the curve, not entirely ahead of the game. So we're actually right now actively exploring a cryptocurrency platform for payment of not only for distributors to pay for the product in crypto, but to receive commissions in crypto.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're actively working on.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, David, because even the Fed is looking at, they're doing a crypto in June. It's coming out, and from what I can, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I can see, I think there's people that just want to get rid of cash.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that we could spend a lot of shows talking about. and I used to, I've been pretty skeptical. I could say I'm kind of like Warren Buffett, wondering what's all the excitement about. But one thing that is true, the technology is here to stay, and that it's not going to go away.
No.
Elon Musk just announced recently that he's going to allow people to pay for cars in crypto, and he's backing it big time. I noticed recently that a new football player has said, I want to have my contract paid in cryptocurrency.
Right.
So there's a lot more legitimacy, and it's not nearly on the sidelines as much as people thinking, well, this is just like selling tulip bulbs in the 1500s.
Yeah, right.
And it's here to stay. And as far as pricing goes, the good news, by keeping it moderately priced in our current countries, we can maintain largely that same type of moderation in pricing across the board. And the good news about that is, even if it becomes a little bit higher priced, they're also being paid at a higher, so as long as you keep the payment of products and the payment of commissions equalized on a one-to-one basis, then you're able to retain that ratio that you want to.
David Brown, ladies and gentlemen, CEO, founder of this brand new company called Activz. Never heard of it. Well, you will. Just keep it in mind. Activz, Activz.com. Go and check it out. Have a good look. Wonderful person, done very successful, and I don't think he'd be bothered with the company, with his career at his age now, after all he's achieved, unless he knew it had something and something special. And I got it here first on the Mark Bishop Show, so I'm very proud that way. David, lovely meeting you, and an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing everything with us. It's been an enjoyable hour. I normally don't go this long on my interviews, but I found it fascinating, and I wish you well with this.